you know, the last growth number didn't give us that confidence. 5.6% GVA and 6.1% GDP in the just ended quarter. Where is this confidence springing from?
Well, I think, Lata, the GDP data has a lot of nuances that we have to go through. The first issue is that there was a bit of base effect. Last year, the same quarter was very strong, 9+%. Secondly, we did have genuinely the impact of currency replacement program, which was quite weighing. And at the same time, the underlying economic activity is still not picked up meaningfully. But I think by this time, and when we look at the April-May data points, the two-wheeler sales, car sales seem to show that, you know, the bulk of impact of currency replacement program on discretionary consumption seems to be behind us. And in the meantime, just look at the last 2 months exports numbers. We've seen like meaningful double-digit growth in external demand. And I don't think it is a trend which should be sort of washed away or written away as a small trend, because when I look at the regional data and emerging markets data, the recovery in external demand that we are seeing right now is the best after 2011. So to that extent, as external demand picks up and consumption picks up, we do think that growth will come back, accelerating towards that 7.5–8% range again. Well, but look, again, you know, this is the new series, and I am less believer of that new series, and we have written that in the past. I would just look at corporate revenue growth. Corporate revenue growth was nearly stable when you look at the broad market corporate revenue growth in the quarter ended March 2017. And that, which is running at around 6%, I would say that will accelerate to about 10–12% in 4 quarters' time, and that would be a better indicator to watch. And then you can also assess my forecasting better that way, because you know the CSO numbers get.
Yes, I guess there are too many revisions, and now there is the IIP and the wholesale price index also revised. I mean, I can imagine there is confusion there, but there is no confusion in the upcoming event, the monetary policy. There was price data is definitely cleaner than output data. And that is showing a very meaningful dip, 2.99 last reading, and you know, it looks like it's going to remain that way. First of all, what's your own inflation reading? Are we going to be sub 3 for a goodish bit?
So look, I think, you know, we would like to look at the core inflation number and take that more seriously. Food inflation has...
Even that dipped.
That dip, but it's still around 4.4–4.5%. So with 4.5% inflation underlying, and we are in some kind of cyclical low as far as the domestic demand is concerned. You are going to see pickup in domestic demand going forward. The food inflation number does have some base effect. At the same time, we've just been fortunate that there was good weather. Global commodity prices have been supportive. Going forward, if you try to take a more normalized view of inflation, we think it will be between 4.5–5%. And so to that...
This year, FY18 itself?
Yeah, we think that by December you will start seeing 4.5% plus inflation numbers. So,
okay.
So you know, this particular next 2–3 months is the sort of best period as far as inflation is concerned. So as it normalizes towards that 4.5–5%, we think that from that perspective, it doesn't look like RBI should cut interest rates. Okay.
Well, our own poll and experts whom we have spoken to have called for a more dovish stance from the Reserve Bank and the MPC in the June 7th policy. Your expectations, both action, but more importantly, the tone.
Well, I think you probably see them being less concerned on inflation, and that may be sort of one notch still down towards being dovish. But broadly, I think the big picture conclusion will be that everybody, all the members should be taking a pause decision. And we may not have that one member who was saying that, you know, I would probably do preemptive. Maybe that statement may not come through. And so in that sense, they would be firmly neutral and sound less concerned on inflation outlook. That's probably what will make market feel that, that the RBI has become more dovish now.
So in your book, there is no space for any further rate cuts?
Yeah, it's very unlikely. I think if you do take a rate cut, it would be very speculative move from RBI, having just moved to neutral. And there are events that they need to watch, the GST, the monsoon, what happens to global commodity prices, and the impact of normalization of credit growth and domestic demand after that damage that we saw from currency replacement program. So all taken together, there's no scope for cutting rates, at least for the next 3–4 months. I think there's a scope for cutting interest rates maybe towards the end of the year if we and RBI go wrong on their forecast of inflation and growth. But to the extent to which we expect pickup in domestic demand and inflation, we think RBI will stay pat on hold for a while.
So